So in the media and from our government officials, you hear that China is buying all of American farmland. So is this true? No. But there are a couple of countries that are buying our farmland like crazy. I'll let you know in just a little bit. Stay tuned. But first, I want to start with I'm standing here in my hayfield. Doesn't look like much right now, but give it 2 months, it'll be knee-high alfalfa. It was agriculture week a week or two ago from now, and it got me thinking about all what I'm going to do for this field here and stuff like that for future plans. And the topic crossed my mind about hearing about China buying all our farmland. So I got another question for you. Do you believe everything you hear from the media, the news, the national news media, and or from our government officials? Everybody I talk to, just about 100% of them say, you've got to be kidding me. I don't believe anything they say. There's no way. So why do we pick and choose things to believe, not to believe? And once you realize you're being lied to more often than not, you learn to think for yourself, research a few things like I did on this topic. All I did was a simple internet search on all the questions I have about who owns what in our country, and it's right there. It's easy to find. I encourage you to look up this information for yourself. You don't have to believe me for anything I say. So, to get started, you hear the national news media. Sometimes I'll watch the Fox News channel more often than not. Getting to the point I don't listen to any of them anymore. But when I do, they talk about China. They're always trying to make China out to be the enemy. And when they do that, it's almost a subliminal type message to try to give. They're talking about President Xi is doing this, doing that. But every time they talk about China, they have to start with saying it's communist China. It's communist China doing this. It's communist China doing that. Even the government officials, when they speak, they talk about communist China. Why do they have to put the word communist in front of all that when they're talking about them? It's because they want you, the audience, to think they're bad. Whether they are or not, I don't know. I'd like to find out for myself. I'll go over there someday and find out. But they need to drill that into your head. When I was younger, it was always the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union was communist, and communism is bad. But from what I understand, it is bad. But they don't need to title everything like that. I could say the Senate is going in to vote on a topic. You don't hear the media coming out saying the idiot Senate officials or the idiot Senate this, the idiot Democrats, idiot Republicans. They don't preface their names with something like that, like they do with communist China. They can't just say China. Anyway. Otherwise, you just look at some of these news channels, they're talking about something about China, they're interviewing somebody about China. Look at the bottom of the screen. Like on Fox News, I'll show you some pictures here. Took some still photos. They'll show in the bottom of the screen, China, rising red threat, printed on the bottom. Well, why do they have to put that on there? They could be talking about China selling cars to the US, but they're always China, communist China, rising red threat, or China, menace. You'll see, why do they got to put that on there? They're trying to convince you that they're bad, they're the enemy, and you should not like them. Why do they do that? Because it's a lot easier to get the people in the country to back the government whenever there's an issue. Like, say if you want to go to war with the country, they've already got the people behind them to go to war. If they want to, let's just say, impose tariffs, you've got the country behind them 100%. Yeah, let's get back at those evil menaces, those communist people, because they've always got this brainwash into our system. Anyway, I did the research on who owns land, who's buying what, and let me get my little spectacles on here. Wrote some of it down, so put it in perspective. In the United States has approximately 880.1 million acres of farmland in the United States. China owns, this is as of 2023 is the last information I could find, China owns 384,000 acres of it. They own that much. But when you do the math, that comes out to China owning 0.044% of our agricultural land. Listen to the news media. No, they're taking over our country. It's got to stop. They can't do that. Then they also say, well, China's also buying land right next to military sites. Well, that's a bunch of BS as well, because where I'm at, where I live right here, I've got a military base 20 miles that way, military base 20 miles that way, military base 40 miles that way. Good luck buying farmland not next to a military base anywhere across our country. Our military is everywhere. They've got something somewhere. So then you look back at the China side of things. Now, if they do buy farmland, why would they buy our farmland? Why would they do that? Well, China has, of its land mass, only 10% of it is for farming. It's just suitable for farming. So they have very little farmland of their own to grow their own food. So that adds up to 320 million acres in China, but that's supposed to support 20% of the world's population. They have a ton of people over there that they have to feed. So if you're a Chinese official, what would you do? You'd go looking for farmland to grow some food for your own population of your country. So yeah, I can understand why they would go to buy some American farmland. Are they going to go to Africa to buy farmland? Don't think so. They're going to go to Australia? Maybe, probably not. They want to grow food in the best parts of the world that can get the most production out of the land. So they look at the United States. Now, there are a couple of countries, there are a lot of countries, probably, I think I counted up to 16 countries that actually own more United States farmland than China does. And I'll give you the top two, which may surprise you, maybe not. The number one owner of the website I went to, this is land. This includes forests and farmland. And actually, forests are a type of agriculture, but a lot of the forest land is owned by paper mills, so you got to keep that in mind. But there is a huge amount of farmland included with the numbers I'm going to tell you. Our neighbors to the north, Canada, they own 12.8 million acres. And of that, 6.8 million is not forest. So they own 6.8 million of our farmland, versus China has 383,000. China owns a drop in the bucket compared to China. And then you're saying, I know, but Canada is not an enemy of the United States. Yeah. So how much of this land owned by Canada, I'm pointing to Canada, how much of that land is next to military bases, do you think? Probably just about all of it. Mexico is also a large owner of United States agricultural land. They own 694,000 acres, which is, math that I have is probably almost double what China has. Now, is Mexico a friend of the United States? Are we best buds with that country? Let's see, they have illegal entry, nonstop, uncontrolled. They have a drug problem coming across their border. They have human trafficking going across the border, and they can't seem to figure out how to get this all stopped. Well, Trump thinks he can, but how do you get that to stop? Let's see. Let's confiscate their farmland that's within our own border, which is the farmland they use to grow their food for their, whatever, tacos, burritos, whatever they're eating down there. A good chunk of that food comes from our country. How long would it take to get Mexico to fix the border, the drug problem, the human trafficking problem, if we just somehow seized those assets? And I know a lot of you are thinking, that's cruel, that's inhumane, you can't take away a country's food supply in any way, shape, or form. Well, think back to what I just was talking about. Drugs coming into our country, killing how many people? Human trafficking with children, or women and children, and the illegal crossings of people who we don't know who they are, if they're good, bad, or otherwise. That's humane? Is that what's right for our country? I think we could fix that in a hurry. So in a nutshell, in our country, in the United States, 40 million foreign-owned acres is what our country is dealing with. And when you're talking about China, who owns just a small fraction of that, you got to think, why is the media, why are the government officials trying to get us to hate China so badly? Are they evil? Maybe. Don't know. Probably. I don't know. I've never met a bad Chinese person in my life. I can't believe that we need to hate them so bad. The powers that be, whether it be the basically run the media and the government for that matter, they need us to hate somebody always. Our country has always been in war for centuries, it seems like. I may be off a few years. We have to hate something. You have to have the Democrats, Republicans. They need to hate each other, otherwise no one would vote. No one would contribute to election campaigns if you didn't hate the other side. If you don't hate another country, you can't go to war with them, because why would you go to war with your friend? So they need you to hate somebody. There's always somebody you need to hate. Makes me wonder about the Taliban. You've all heard about Taliban, how evil those people are, rotten scoundrels that they are. But where did we hear that from? The media, the government officials. Because I always wondered, how, if they're such horrible people, why they're so just the most rotten people on earth, how do they get tens of thousands of people to join them to fight together? Anyway, the point of all this is I would like you to think for yourself when you hear something from the media. Is it true that China's buying all our farmland? No. Are they buying some of our farmland? Yes, but not much. Can you imagine if Canada ever was the enemy of the United States? They own us. I mean, what they have is incredible for the acreage they have in our country. Mexico, you can tell the government's not serious about changing a darn thing, because we could easily seize those assets and they would come begging for solutions. So the next time you hear of China is taking over our farmland, now you know the truth. If you don't believe me, look it up for yourself. Go ahead and leave a comment. See you next time.